Unless it's his one. No, that's not his
That's
one.
courthouse. He still has wood house.
Oh, he's in the courthouse?
I mean, yeah, but that crap's courthouse.
I bet.
See the wainscoting and, well, he may not, but he was here earlier today.
Okay.
I saw him downstairs earlier.
I'll
He
take
may
that.
be at home. He may go at home. Cause he wrote, payroll in.
They asked me,
Happy to see when I was,
that's the reason I can't remember, I had so many bills and payroll today, and just trying to get back to the house, it just, me to.
come in there, you come in anywhere.
And Sonia, where's she at?
She's, looks like, I think that's down at her office or my office, one or the other.
It's the view, it's kind of hard to tell a little bit.
And I see Quinn, I recognize this deal after. My
Yeah.
stuff was so slow at the house, I mean, y'all already moved on, the time I had it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the further you get from the little booster stations at Centex, the slower it goes.
I noticed too, I tried to vote because I knew I could see my voice, and I tried to raise my hand. And,
You know, there was a lag. Everybody else would vote, then it was like,
yeah,
Mike wants to say something. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, you already through going to a different subject, and I just get my hand, it's just showing my hand, but I just tell them.
Yeah, I was on one last week with Comanche County and Eastland County. And the Eastland County judge was on there, and all of a sudden it just disappears. And then, so we just go on, and about 5 minutes later, he's back, he's apologizing. His kid turned on the Xbox and started playing a game, and it took all the bandwidth, and he had to go shut him down.
I noticed Bryan County, they came up and they're still in, but they were wearing masks, the commissioners and judges.
Really? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, somebody posted it on the Facebook, one of their meetings, and they were all setting up there.
Well, they've got, I think the last number I saw was 19 cases in Brown County, but some of them are recovered, and most of them seem to be in nursing home, but it's one nursing home. I don't know which one.
That's what I said.
But it's employees and residents, so the employees are out in the community.
We're talking about that 13 cases in this one. Did you hear anything about the drive-through and how the success
I
of
heard there
it?
were 14 people out there.
At ours,
I heard there were 14 people.
I haven't got the official word. I got a number of 12, so I'd rather have 14.
I heard that they brought something like 48, 45, 48 people in for the test. Expected 60 people.
Mhm.
Only had 14.
Yeah, well, we had 18 hours notice to set that whole thing up. They wouldn't test anybody if you didn't have symptoms. And then
See, that's what I thought.
about midnight, they said, okay, and test first responders. They didn't find out about that. And then some people that went over there to test, they found out that if they wouldn't test two people in the same household. So like if you had a sick kid and y'all both signed up to go over there and get tested, one of you, but not both. So there was some of that going on.
Well, I noticed that it was really cleaned up, looked nice when I came by that morning, precinct morning, but, we left at 7:30 from the precinct morning and still won't go on over there. So no activity.
Yeah, they rolled in late and, but not as late. There was a time the night before when they were not going to come till 1. And we
And I
got that.
heard that they told them it would take 3 or 4 days for them to get back to the people.
Yeah, I'm expecting official results may start coming in today or tomorrow.
I would be surprised if they don't find one, because they need to find one.
Who were you supposed to sign up with free, get an appointment with?
They had a phone number and a website, and it was, you had to call, and it was Austin probably. But they had to interview you, get contact information, and confirm your symptoms. And then they gave you, like a McDonald's, your number, here's your reservation number and your time slot.
Because I thought that was one of the main issues, you had to have symptoms
Yeah,
before you could get even tested.
that was what they told us initially. You had to have symptoms or be a first responder. They peeled off a squad. It was a platoon, and they sent one squad over mid-morning to San Saba on even less notice. And I've heard, they might have done 10 people over there, most of them being first responders. Let's see how we're doing on time.
I got 8:58.
Okay. Well, it's 9 o'clock, or close enough, but it's 9 o'clock by my watch. So we will call this session of Mills County Commissioners Court to order. And if y'all would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, could you lead us in prayer?
Yes. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Father, doing the best we can for Mills County. Father, guide us today as in our thoughts and in our hearts as we are working this hour for Mills County. Bless this county, this country during these trying times. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Before we run down the agenda, let me just go over who all is present, see if we're missing anybody, and I think it'll help the clerk with the minutes. Here in the Commissioner's courtroom, we have the County Judge, Commissioner Hall, and Commissioner Wright, and Carolyn Foster, the County Clerk. Sonia Scott is the only person else present in the room. From the camera, I see Treasurer Trina Busby, County Attorney Gerald Hale, Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Guerin, Chris Green at the Law Enforcement Center, and looks like the Goldthwait Eagle is on with either the camera turned off or just on a teleconference. Is anybody present that I did not identify? Okay.
There's Tina with the sheriff's office.
Okay, yeah,
She's
Tina.
coming around the corner there.
Yeah, I see her sticking out from the camera. And I see that I don't see any member of the public save and except the Eagle. If any member of the public is present, you make yourself known and you can have the opportunity to speak. Ms. Foster, did we have anybody that you know of that's turned in a signing sheet? Okay. This is also going to YouTube, so it will be available live and after the fact. First thing on the agenda, item 2, is to review and act on the minutes of April 13th and April 20. These are in your package. I had a question on the April 13th minutes, Carolyn. On item 2, it talks about the approval of the minutes of March 9. Those are the ones we had a little bit of trouble with, and I believe there was a list of corrections in the agenda, and the motion was to approve them with amendments.
Well, but that was as presented, so.
That was ma'am.
That was in your list of things you want corrected were presented with the minutes. The minutes were presented correct, whatever I put.
Okay, my recollection, oh, I haven't been back to the video yet, was that the motion was to approve the minutes with those amendments.
Well, that's fine. But I wrote that those as presented, and those motions presented, so that I voted.
Okay,
against it too, so this makes it back.
is the court clear on that?
I did not hear.
Okay, let me restate what Ms.
I
Foster.
can hear you, I just can't hear Carolyn.
Right. Carolyn, can you try pulling that mic closer to you, see if that makes a difference?
I didn't even know.
Okay, well, never mind then. Let me try and restate what Carolyn was explaining is what she has written in the minutes of March 13th was, well, you can read it, but the explanation is the approval was of what was presented, which included both the minutes and the comments or amendments to the minutes, which were included in the package. And therefore, the motion to approve the minutes as amended is what's reflected in these minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Hale, are you okay with this?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have a problem.
Okay. And the minutes, that was the only comment I had. The minutes of the 20th, that was the one item meeting we had to designate Dr. Lee as the medical authority. Any other discussion of the minutes?
I make a motion that the minutes 4/20/20 and 4/13/2020 be approved as written.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion and a second to approve the minutes of April 13th and April 20th as written. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Raise your hand. I'm sorry, I was looking at the camera.
Yes.
Okay, so we have unanimous approval of the minutes. Audience with individuals, we have no one that is present to speak. Accounts payable and payroll. The accounts payable report was circulated electronically on Friday. Any questions on that?
Yeah, the only one I have is the I guess it's toward the last page, page 7, is the Heart of Texas Mechanical on the community center condenser. Was that not under warranty or is it already out?
It was not under warranty. It required a house call, so I don't know how much of that is labor and how much of it's parts.
Okay. Trina's on mute. I can't hear her.
Ms. Busby, do you have a recollection? She's shaking her head no. Let's see if we've muted her on our end.
There she is.
As far as I know, there wasn't any warranty.
Okay. Just, that was the only question I had.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that will accept the accounts payable and payroll as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve accounts payable and payroll as presented. Any discussion? All in favor signify by aye and raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have a unanimous approval. County Extension Agent report. This missed our reports last meeting from the other departments. Reflects a bunch of mileage primarily. Houston Livestock Stock Show, which was canceled in progress, and ongoing programs on Pecan Course being online. I would move we accept the extension agent's report for the month of March.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Okay, that's unanimous. Number 6 is approval to apply for county transportation infrastructure grant. I believe the grant application form is in the package. The application deadline is, I believe it's the 27th of May, so we may have one more meeting, but I just thought we'd get this out of the way. The state has given us a allocation of approximately $66,000. They also told us that that's assuming every county in Texas draws down their allocation. The last time this was done, there were maybe 100 counties that didn't. A bit more money was available. So as we get the road reports in, what we'll do is just talk about how we'll list them, what order of repairs. And I propose we'll just list the, the big stuff, the concrete crossings, the low water crossings, any roads that we're going to resurface a long stretch of, and we'll turn in as however much that amounts to.
That report, Judge, is not due to the end of June. Is that not correct?
The usual road report is not. Now, their requirement to apply for this grant is that we have to turn in a road report. So, and they've got their form in here of what, they'd propose it to look like. Since the report's not due till June, we could either, our choices, I think, are to either do it early or to turn in last year's. But, and if you've got projects, for instance, unfortunately, for instance, 327 is done now. But any project, once we turn the report in, turn in the application, any work you do is eligible. So if we turn this in into May, and you're still doing 3 low water crossings or plan to between now and year end, or even into next year, that works. It doesn't really matter whether the work is this fiscal year or next fiscal year, as long as the work doesn't occur until after we return in the report. So, for instance, the 508 bridge, well, you've done what you've done. Now, if there's more coming, we can get it in.
It's with TxDOT's recommendations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I plan on doing is trying to finish one more road crossing this year within the next 6 months. That would be included.
Yes.
Be included in this.
And if you have some for next year.
The next 2 be for the next.
Yes.
Yes, Judge. When I talked to Ms. Victoria at TxDOT in Brownwood at the district office that's over our county, she told me that it'd be best to go ahead and do a new road report, annual road report, before you turn this in. So that means you would be basically turning it in and getting it approved next month, and then turning this application in with a new report.
I agree. That would be preferable if the commissioners can all pull together a road report, basically 30 days earlier than they were otherwise planning. This just has to, I think there's a drop dead deadline of May 27th.
May 27th, that's correct.
Of the grant.
It doesn't open till April the 27th.
That's correct. So what I'm proposing is approval to apply for the grant. Then we won't actually do it and turn it in until we have the prioritized road projects. and as much road report as we can get.
Then I make a motion that we apply for the TIF grant.
I second that motion. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second to apply for the County Transportation Infrastructure Fund grant. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Number 7 is the Sheriff's Office declaring a Ford Crown Vic as surplus to be sold at Live Oak Auction. Deputy Green, do you want to address that?
Not much to address on it. It was originally a patrol vehicle that was taken out of service and basically given to the jail to use for transport. It is since mechanically it's not reliable at all. So we've stripped what we need to off of it and it's ready to go to pasture.
I make a motion that we declare the Sheriff's Department's 2009 Ford Crown Victoria to be sold as surplus at Live Oak Auction.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item is declaring a WatchGuard DV1 camera as scrap. Deputy Green, could you tell us what this is and why it's worthless?
Essentially, this is one of the older versions of our in-car camera systems. It utilizes an onboard DVD burner. This technology is long past its usefulness. This particular camera has had some mechanical issues for some time. We are, as the courts have approved and been notified of, got on order another patrol vehicle, and we just got through purchasing the Explorer from last year. So all those things are kind of culminating right now. With the new vehicle, we ordered the new version of the camera system. They don't make parts for these things. They don't service them. So essentially they have become obsolete. So, and then, like I said, in this particular one, it has had issues anyway. So, according to the manufacturer, there are no parts of this that are salvageable, transferable, anything like that. So basically the system is useless.
Which car is it installed in now?
It's not installed in anything right now. It was installed in Deputy Johnny Brown's vehicle. He's the one that we put in the new Explorer. And it's got a new camera system in it.
Did we acquire this with a grant that we need to do some paperwork on to take?
No, I've applied for in-car systems through the grants, but none of those have made the cut. So no, these are out of pocket.
Is there any other discussion?
Make a motion that we declare WatchGuard DV1 in-car camera as scrap.
Do we have a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Hall has seconded Commissioner Wright's motion. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have approved the motion that camera is declared scrap. Number 9, just a discussion, mid-year financial performance and forecast. Through the end of March, we're now 6 months through the county's fiscal year, and a lot's been going on, so I thought it was worthwhile to take a look at things. Charles Miles, Trina, and I have all worked on this. There's several parts to it. One is taking a look at what we have spent in the first half of the year through March, and then how that looks versus our annual budget. There's a page in your package titled Recap of Budgeted Disbursements that sort of shows that at the fund level. Charles Miles and Tarina prepared this. Let me give you my take on it, and Tarina, butt in when you're ready, when you want to. It looks like we're going to be potentially under budget on expenses in the general fund departments and in law enforcement, potentially over in the court fund. Those are and the indigent health. Those are the big numbers. The precinct numbers are all over the place. It looks like everybody's projected to be under budget, but I would tell you I don't put much confidence in that, because I believe a lot of the big money projects were coming in, which is the concrete work and low water crossings and bridges, were being done or at least paid for after March. So I don't think these projections first 6 months are really what the second 6 months will look like. Trina, do you want to add to that?
She's on mute again.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
I think you're right. The precincts are definitely, all the higher expenses weren't taken into consideration. And the biggest problem right now may be the indigent health.
So is that indigent health? That looks correct.
Well, you just never know as far as the jail being, you know, what he did is took what it was half a year and multiplied that by 2. Well, if it,
Yeah.
but we have had the big bills from that one jail inmate being in the hospital and the air ambulance. So hopefully it won't be that much for the second half.
How's that fall in years past on indigent health? Have we been that far over trend before?
It's really maybe not that much, but indigent health is one that's always concerned me. It could go south really quick in any given year. At least we have $50,000 in a CD set back in case it does blow the budget. But that's a wild card.
Let's talk about the top part of the budget, which is the revenue. And this is the worrisome part, especially as we look out through the end of the year. Going into March, we had a couple of things that were off track. We're not talking little stuff. I'm talking about high level, big numbers. One of them was tax collections. There is a major tax dispute with Sherryland Encore over one of the 345 kilovolt transmission lines. As a result of that dispute, they did not pay the disputed amount. That's why our tax collections in February, March were below the percentage levels we usually collect in those time periods. There was an appraisal review board hearing that heard the protest and turned it down. And then they have, I want to say 60 days, but the real key number is, I think it's the 27th or 28th of this month. So probably tomorrow to appeal that. They'll have to appeal it in district court. So I'm going to be living in Carolyn's office to see if that actually gets filed today and tomorrow. If they appeal it, then it's got to go to, obviously, to Judge Ellis to hear. That's going to be a problem, not over the law, which seems pretty clear but the civil cases have been pretty much put on hold during this pandemic. So the timing of that appeal getting heard could easily stretch into next year. If they don't appeal it, then it's just payable with the penalties, and we could see it in a month or two. So that's a big wild card. It's worth, off the top of my head, I don't have to go off the top of my head. I have it exactly. It's worth about $350,000 plus to us in the second 6 months. So a lot of money.
So do they get penalties on that if it
Yes.
doesn't go through?
Yes.
Does the penalties occur if it goes to district court
Yes.
and it's postponed that whole time, or?
Yeah, yes. The only way the penalties and interest don't get paid, I believe, is if they prevail at district court.
So if the district court takes 2 or 3 months to happen, their price keeps going up?
That's correct. Now, but we're on a cash budget and a fiscal year. So the issue is we may not see it, any of it. We can't accrue it. So it just won't be here this fiscal year. But it could be a very helpful windfall next year. The problem for next year, and we're not really talking about next year yet, is everybody agrees that that number will not be on the tax rolls next year. So it'll help buffer that. The other thing that was ongoing in March and in February and is continuing is prisoner boarding. We could be off by, a third on that number, and that's probably $100,000. That's a combination. Before we got into the virus situation, that was a combination of both rate and volume and timing. The assumptions in the budget were 300 billable days per month. So that's like 10 prisoners every day of the month. So 10 times 30 was 300 at a rate. And it's running less than that. It was running closer to 200 prisoner days a month, first part of the year. Now everything's changed with the virus and the protection and the, we don't want this in our jail, or you wouldn't even begin to believe the indigent health costs, but we're taking fewer taking fewer prisoners into our jail. So I think the last count I heard was we might have 5 out-of-county prisoners now. And that number will wind down as those people go their own ways or ultimately get out. And until we start taking more in again, which will be after this disease lets up, we're going to have a continued budget problem there. So those are the 2 revenue problems we had going into March. In March and April, with the stay-at-home orders, what we're also seeing now is fines and fees, which is the court activity at the district court level, the county court level, and the justice court level, have all substantially reduced.
With reduction of prisoners, Judge, does that, we have a reduction of our jailers?
No. We have had a reduction in the food, but that's not a big number.
Payroll is.
Payroll is, and I think it's one of those deals that as long as you have 1 prisoner in there, you got to have the same, Chris, help me out on this. I think you got always 2 jailers because one's on dispatch.
Correct. We have to have 1 in the control room, which is also dispatch, and 1 on the floor.
And
And you're correct. It's either 1 prisoner or 30 prisoners. It's the same number.
So we're stuck. I mean, as long as they have one. And also it's hit us in vehicle registration because the governor gave everybody, said you don't have to renew your license plates or titles until 60 days after he lifts his emergency orders. So that revenue stream is dried up. You got a little graph, and try to hold it up for the camera to see what it looks like. But this is just for talking purposes, but it shows that by year end, for the whole year, we could have a revenue shortfall of between 170,000 and 700,000. And I'll tell you what the difference is. The quick recovery shows Sherryland doesn't file an appeal, and we get that penalty and interest money next month. And it shows other things starting to recover in May and gradually getting back up to historic levels by August and September. So we recapture most of the license plate fees because they have to get paid within their 60 days after the emergency ends. All those things happen, and the jail boarding goes back up, not as far as we budgeted, but back to historic levels. Those things happen. We got $170,000 hole in the budget. Those things don't happen. The Sherryland appeals it, and it flops over into next year just on the court schedule. And we continue kind of where we are. Lockdown, no court, no fees, no new prisoners. We're looking at a $700,000 shortfall. Now, neither scenario is probably what's going to happen. It's likely to be somewhere between those numbers. But I wanted y'all to see this and what we're facing for the second half of the year. We have the cash to cover the checks, so that's not an issue. But this tells me that anything we can do on the expense side, we're better off now because, and this is useful. We'll be starting on the budget packages soon. I think Karina's already had some printed, and it's just something to keep in mind. The governor's having a press conference this afternoon about his recovery plan. We'll know on the Sherryland thing in a day or two. So we'll get a little more visibility pretty quickly. But wherever we end up this year, you can count on is kind of where we're going to be starting next year. So, Ms. Busby, you want to add to that?
No, sir.
Deputy Green, anything you want to say about the prisoner boarding forecast?
It's a moving target. You never know. There's a ton of variables that affect it. So a small change here or there could open it wide up, or we could set where we're at right now. You just don't know.
Chris?
Yeah.
Are a lot of the counties around us having the same issue with their jails?
Overall, yeah, everyone's trying to limit moving inmates around and, taking new inmates in, especially from out of county. Just trying to do our part with trying to, essentially we're quarantining our inmates. So our jail may be the safest place out there. They're pretty sealed off. But some jails are a little more open than we are. Some are more locked down. So it's up to every jail's situation. I know we had an arrest Friday that it needed to be resolved, but the warrant was from Brown County. And instead of introducing him into our jail, we just called Brown County and they said, yeah, we'll meet you at the county line with him. So we kind of bypassed our jail and he went on to Brown County. So Things like that, what we're trying to do. Traditionally, he would have just come to jail here and, things flushed out as they need to, but, everybody's kicking in, trying to take care of each other.
Okay.
Carolyn, with regard to fines and fees, is there anything you'd like to add to that on the projection?
We got a couple of cases filed at Ellis and Ewing, too many criminal cases right now, just ones that are necessary, so. We've had some money come in, our reporting's down a little, but this time of year it's kind of down anyway.
I know y'all have trouble hearing Carolyn because we didn't have the mics activated. We get a feedback loop, but what she's saying is that there've been Ellis has heard a few criminal cases. He's done it by Zoom, so there's a little bit of fees coming that direction. She's getting sort of the seasonal amount of recording and filing fees. And I think there's almost nothing going on the civil front.
We're having cases filed.
Okay, cases are being filed, but not heard, right?
No, not yet.
So there could be a big backlog that if this thing breaks open, the courts and the clerk could be very busy.
What about the vehicle registration office? They're going to be very busy?
Yes. I met with Lori Friday and went over her April reports, her mid-month reports. And that's why the back to, the best case forecast, once the governor ends the emergency, which is told the registration and title work requirements, in 60 days, that all has to get done. So there've been scattered people coming in to deal with it anyway, and some by the internet. But everything that's been deferred will have to come back in within 60 days. So we'll see that again. The JPs on her side, the fees may not come back. There won't be a catch up because what's really happening is that a lower amount of traffic tickets are actually getting written. So though there'll be a lower amount of things to collect fees, but there's some. So that's the outlook. As soon as we know more about what's going to happen with the state declared emergency and the economy, we may update the revenue forecast again for you in a month or so. It's something we need to keep our eye on for the rest of the year. Any other discussion? Commissioners' requests and reports. Commissioner Wright?
Low water crossing on 327, it will be open today. Simon, you take that off the website. Thank you. We're in the process of placing 2 10 horns on County Road 427. We're placing a 10 horn on County Road 443. And we took the brush cutter back to precinct 2 this morning. That's all I have.
Commissioner Guerin?
We just like a few days being through retopping the biggest part of 312, mile and a half, 2 miles of it. And I'd like to thank Randy Leonard for donating all the material it took to do that. We really appreciate it. That's it.
Commissioner Hall?
We bladed some roads in the Democrat area, cleaning out some 10 horns. Brush cutter, we're gonna finish up with it this week, and it will be returned back to precinct 4 end of this week. That's it.
Commissioner Williams?
Also done some blade work, not many, kind of got dry real quick. Worked on some equipment in the yard, had some overheating issues. It's not even summer yet, and we're already overheating. We're put in a new culvert out on 531, took most all week. We had to actually rent a jackhammer to get up the cement that Camp Bowie poured over the top of the culvert back in whenever Camp Bowie owned all that country out there. It was very, very difficult to get up. Had some road hands on vacation due to one move-in, and one of them had some other personal issues. So getting kind of slow on a couple things, but other than that, going good.
Judge, one thing I like to add too is that I want to thank Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Williams for the use of their signs and barricades. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Anytime.
Well, with the slowdown of T-ball season, the cones probably aren't disappearing as quickly as they used to.
That's true.
We had, the big thing I had in my office last week was the unannounced military drive-through COVID testing. We had literally had about 18 hours notice that was coming. We didn't have a choice in it. It was driven out of Austin. All we were asked to do or told to do was find a site that mostly met the specifications and try and tell the community. David Swartz was tremendously helpful on short notice to make the fire station available. There were requirements that it had to have covered drive-through bays. And that was the only place that really came to mind quickly. We tested, best number I've got is 12 test kits got sent to Austin at the end of the day. There was almost a full platoon of Texas Guard here doing the testing. They peeled off one squad and sent them to San Antonio on literally no notice and did testing over there.
You said San Antonio.
I'm sorry, San Saba. And yeah, the Guard unit was based in San Antonio, but the remote testing they sent to San Saba. I was told that they did about 10 units there with the delays. They were telling people, you know, a couple of days to get results. Well, it took a day to drive it to Austin and a weekend. So probably results will come out today and tomorrow. They'll be going directly to the individuals. If it's negative, via text. If it's positive, it'll flow through the state medical staff, and doctors or nurses will call them, but it will show up in our daily report that we get on number of cases. So we get a report every day of cases in Mills County, which is every day it says 0 so far, but if we get one today or tomorrow that has numbers in it, it's going to be coming out of this test. They've moved on. They did Eastland County Friday. I think they're in Hamilton County this week and just working their way around this part of the state.
Judge, have you been notified any about how the census is going in Mills County?
I'm glad you asked that. No, the census, the on-site census visits have been deferred. I don't know how we're doing on the people mail in or doing it online. I need to push that with our community to get us started. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I never got a census form in the mail.
I got one and sent it back.
Yeah, good.
Yes.
But I went online to the census link and was able to go in there and register. So Sonia and I will push something out around the community to try and get people to. Unfortunately, it came out during where all the political junk mail was going on. I'm sure a lot of people just threw things away. So yeah, I need to make a big public push to get that done. But I think the deadline for the on-site stuff has been pushed out at least 30 days. That's all I've got. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
There's no minutes in here. I don't know if we have the minutes.
You don't belong to, there's nothing to sign.
I've got,
Doesn't matter. I texted two and said you'll have to sign.
okay.
And they've been trying to come in and sign.
Did all the call?
That boy, voltage fence taken down was one of them. Oh, Hill County Road 250.
That baby's down there. The baby's down there bouncing around and